We all love the Low Country lifestyle, which is why we should do our best to protect it. To get insurance that helps you protect your home from whatever the Low Country throws at you, contact CT Lowndes and Company today. Their local agents can review your coverage to help make sure you're properly protected. CT Lowndes and Company has been helping protect and insuring the Low Country since 1850. Visit ctlowndes.com to learn more and request a quote. That's CTLOWNDES.com.
Lean on us.
We are here for you.
You matter.
You are not alone.
Are you feeling overwhelmed? Not sure where to turn? The National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there for you 24/7. Call or text 988 or chat at 988sc.org. Whether you're having an emergency or you know someone who needs support now, they can help you take the next step towards finding hope and healing.
There is hope. 988sc.org.
And now, all the way from America, it's time for the Tea Party Power Hour with everyone's favourite Yank, Mark Gillar.
Welcome to the Tea Party Power Hour. I am your host, Mark Gillar. Today we have with us Mr. Chet Festive. He is the author of Everything is Ice Cream, A Tale of an Old Man and His Tongue. If I could make one change, I would say a creepy old man and his tongue. Chet has written several award-winning novels and screenplays. He's written 4 children's books. He got kicked off of Twitter for getting Olive Garden trending. We're going to find out more about what that means in a little bit. And he spent a few months writing international op-eds pointing out how awful Fauci and the CDC were on COVID. Let you in a little hint. He's also a doctor, so he was more than qualified to do that. Chet, welcome to the Tea Party Power Hour.
Hey, Mark. Hey, we may as well I'm not Chet. My name is Mark Huffman. No.
Okay. All right.
But Chet is a very private person.
Mm-hmm.
So for this particular project that we're going to talk about today, he doesn't talk to people. But I've been known to come on podcasts in various other capacities. So I kind of got tagged for the team to talk about Everything is Ice Cream.
Well, apparently, according to Joe Biden, everything is ice cream. Now, I know you had a big decision to make today regarding whether or not to wear pants or not, and you found out we were doing audio. So, did you decide to go pantless or what?
Yeah, we're doing shorts.
Shorts, okay.
I feel like that was a compromise between me and propriety. So here we are.
Okay, that's great, and frankly. Having been introduced as America's favorite Yank, that's about all I want to say about pants right now. So anyway, let's dig into this book. The name of the book is Everything is Ice Cream, A Tale of an Old Man and His Tongue. And I have to say, as I go through this book, the illustrations are very, very well done, and there are some of the creepiest damn pictures of Joe Biden's tongue that you can imagine, or drawings of his tongue. What inspired you to write this book, Mark?
Well, what a question that is. I was actually asked to write this book, by which I mean I was asked. So Chet Festive, like I said, we're not going to talk about him much, but he's kind of the brains of the operation, but he also put together a pretty A-list team. The artist is an A-list illustrator,
That's
which
obvious.
is why that's why the pictures of the tongue are so creepy. He really dove into it, and I hope everyone gets a chance to check it out. But it's horrifically impressive. Chet asked me to do it because I'm not going to brag, but I've been told I'm maybe the greatest children's author working in verse alive today. That's just what I've been told. And this book is in verse. I've written children's books. They're very funny. And so when I was asked to join this project, knowing who else was involved, I jumped at the chance. I was more of a consultant than anything. But again, I'm the guy who has the experience talking on podcasts and YouTube shows.
Okay.
So I'm it.
Tag, you're it. You're the guy stuck doing the interview. But
Oh, yeah. Happy to be here, by the way.
and we're happy to have you. You and I have a lot in common. Grew up in the same town, have the same first. Well, actually, it's your middle name, but we both go by Mark. Our phone numbers start with the same area code. We both spent some time at Texas A&M University, and frankly, we both think Joe Biden is a creeper. So, what more do you need? We're go ahead.
Is it an opinion anymore?
No, it's just a fact.
Our opinion was that it's not an opinion anymore. Hence, when I was asked to try to come up with something about, could you do something funny about how much Joe Biden likes ice cream?
Mm-hmm.
I thought for a weekend, and I said, yeah, I think so. And you've read the result.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not going to say, because I don't know if we should give this away, we're not going to say why Joe Biden suddenly started thinking everything is ice cream, but it's very, very funny. I don't want to give it all away because it's a short book, and if we go through the whole thing, no one's going to need to buy it. So
I don't know. They can't see the pictures for this.
That's true.
It's up to you. Look, I'll go through the whole thing if you want, because it is extraordinarily funny.
Absolutely.
But we don't have to. Your call, Mark.
Oh, well, gee whiz, the decisions that fall on your shoulders when you're a podcast host. For right now, let's just kind of make our way through the book, and I want to ask you some questions about the illustration.
Let's do it.
Tucked within a lot of these illustrations are little subtle and sometimes not so subtle messages about Joe Biden. Now, I couldn't help but notice that there are two illustrations where there are blocks on his desk. And if you look at the first one carefully, it seems to be spelling out the word pedo. And if you look at the second illustration, it seems to be spelling out the word pizza. Is that a not so thinly veiled reference to Pizzagate?
Now, that is a question for my chaotic good illustrator, who had a heck of a time placing those little Easter eggs. And if I can speak for him, the answer is yes. Okay. And it's more tongue-in-cheek than anything. I don't know if you could nail him down and say, do you buy into the entire Pizzagate situation? I don't know if he would say yes or not. My guess is that he would say, not quite. But that being said, it is difficult to argue with the reality that there are a lot of very wealthy, very powerful people in politics. And again, this speaks to kind of the whole thrust of the book. And this is not tongue-in-cheek. There are a whole lot of powerful, wealthy people who are doing awful, awful things with children and getting away with it. And obviously, Exhibit A is the fact that, do you know who's on Ghislaine Maxwell's client list?
I do not, because they haven't released it.
Because they haven't released it. So that right there kind of tells you that someone's in charge and someone doesn't want those names out. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter that they are pedophiles, or in that case, probably ephebophiles. At least they like teenage girls and not prepubescents. But there are, it's horrific. It's not really something to joke about. You almost kind of have to, because the federal government, not just of the United States, but the governments of many, many places, Prince Andrew, cough, cough, Prince Andrew, is covering up some horrific things. And I don't know if that's any different than how it's been in a lot of history in a lot of places, but we live today, and it's inexcusable, and it's horrible. And it really makes me upset talking about it too.
I can tell. Well, what I find interesting is how everyone has really colluded to cover this up. The mainstream media isn't asking any questions whatsoever, which pretty much tells you the people involved are Democrats, even though certainly Republicans probably have engaged in this type of behavior somewhere in history. And even Fox News was going on and on about how there is no basement beneath the Comet Pizza place in Washington, D.C. Yet there's an article where the owner of the place is talking about all the fresh vegetables down in the basement. And what we've eventually found out is that the Comet Ping Pong and Pizza was using a basement beneath a neighboring retail establishment's place of business as their basement. But it seemed important to Fox News to try to kill this story and say, "Oh no, there's no basement there." Well, not directly under the ping pong place, no, but there is one that the owner of the place was referencing in an interview that he did. So, I don't know how deep this thing runs, but I can tell you this: when the mainstream media is afraid to ask a question about it, and why wouldn't they be after what happened to Epstein? I mean,
oh, sure.
Yeah. In fact, there were people posting memes of the Epstein thing 2 weeks or several weeks before he died, with Hillary Clinton on the phone going, Epstein committed suicide next week. And that's just kind of the way it is. And there's so much wrong with that story.
Sure.
One of the things, I have a friend who's in law enforcement, and he said that whenever they put somebody that is on a suicide watch into a cell, they make sure that all the sheets are made of paper so that if they try to hang themselves, the sheets will break. And I later found out that those types of sheets were in Epstein's cell. Okay, so you've got to believe that the paper sheets didn't break, the guards fell asleep, the cameras became dysfunctional, and his roommate cellmate just happened to be transferred out, right before this happened. I mean, you'd have to be a complete idiot to think that that was a suicide. But again, obviously some very powerful people. I mean, how many times did Bill Gates go there?
Yeah, I mean, do we even know? It's farcical. Obviously, it's farcical to think that he committed suicide just then. I just want to live to the day where all of this is elucidated. Like it's all illuminated. It's all out there in the open, and even posthumously, people have their reputations ruined, and everyone alive goes to jail for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Wicked people can't be in charge forever. And there are some wicked people in charge, Mark.
I would think so, yeah. All you have to do is take a look at Kamala Harris's daughter or Joe Biden's son to realize that they were horrible parents. We've got Ashley Biden in her journal, her diary, which at least the FBI seems to think is real, saying that the reason she's an alcoholic and a sex addict is she thinks it stems from the quote-unquote inappropriate showers that she took with her father when she was a little girl, which of course raises the question, where in the hell was Jill Biden when this was happening? I mean, go ahead.
I've heard, and I honestly couldn't tell you where I've heard this, but I've heard a rumor that Joe Biden is a habitual nudist to the extent that female Secret Service members don't care to be on his detail. I mean, almost an exhibitionist. And looking at his behavior, and skipping ahead, but a lot of recognizable figures feature in this book. Most prominently at the end, the Dalai Lama. What kind of person must you be? What kind of things must you get up to the point where you know that you're on camera, whether it's Joe Biden or the Dalai Lama, and you know everything's going to be broadcast. You know that this is being filmed, it's being recorded, it's being captured on photographs, and you still you sniff their hair, you touch their face, you make the totally inappropriate comment to the child, you ask the little boy to suck your tongue, you know their camera's there. Can you imagine doing that? I can't imagine doing that in public, in private. Imagine how warped your sense of propriety, and yes, this has come from the guy who considered not wearing pants, but whatever. It's my house. And it's just a podcast. But imagine how skewed, how warped your sense of what is appropriate, specifically what's appropriate with children, has to be, to where you're like, no, this will be fine. I'll ask this little boy on camera to lick my tongue. What? I'm sorry, what? But that happened. That's real.
And another thing that's real is there's the video of him putting his hand over the chest of this little 8-year-old girl. This is Joe Biden we're talking about now. And he does this, and she comes out at the age of 16 and says, when he had his hand there, he pinched my nipple. Now, I think Joe Biden was...
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I can send it to you. We have each other's email. I'll send that to you. So Joe Biden apparently is touching this little girl on video. It was already a famous video because of the way she was squirming to try to get away from him. And then she came out at age 16 and posted something online saying that he had pinched her nipple. Now, he was probably in his 70s at that point. What kind of a 70-year-old man reaches down and pinches an 8-year-old girl's breast? You have got to be one sick mofo in order to do that. And he is. And I'll tell you something else. You said you didn't know where that stuff came from about him being a nudist. I do. It came from a book called In the President's Secret Service. There's this guy, his name escapes me, the author, but he has written a number of books through the eyes of the Secret Service about various presidents and vice presidents. As interesting as Joe Biden was, I have to say LBJ was even more interesting as vice president. But what he said is that there were complaints filed against Joe Biden because every time certain female Secret Service agents were assigned to him, the first thing he'd do in the morning is go out to the pool, take off all his clothes, and swim naked so the Secret Service girls could see him in the nude. So he has that reputation. There was also an incident where a Secret Service agent said, will you take a picture with me and my girlfriend? So he agrees to do it. And right before they snap the picture, Joe grabs the boob of the Secret Service agent, of his girlfriend, rather. And all the other Secret Service agents had to pull that guy back because he was getting ready to go after Joe Biden, at the time, Vice President Joe Biden, for grabbing his girlfriend's boob. I mean, this guy thinks he can do, and so far he has, whatever in the hell he wants, whether it's pinching a little girl on the breast or grabbing a Secret Service agent's girlfriend by the boob. I mean, whether finger raping Tara Reid. I mean, this guy is a pervert beyond any measure that we've seen before. And you got to admit, Mark, he gets away with it. He has, and it looks like
he gets away with it. Bill Clinton gets away with it. Hunter is getting away with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's baffling and infuriating. And again, I don't know that it's necessarily restricted just to the left, just to Democrats, but it's more prevalent. And there seems to be no consequences, and I don't know why.
Look at the Epstein thing. No consequences. I mean, if you're on that list, if you went there, how do you convict someone, Ghislaine Maxwell, or as I say, Ghislaine Maxwell, and how do you convict her of selling these services of underage girls to clients and not convict the clients?
Oh no, it's absolutely baffling. It's almost as if they're just saying, yeah, the justice system doesn't work. We protect who we want to protect. We prosecute who we want to prosecute. And you all know that the people on this list, whoever they are more powerful than you and more privileged than you. They're in charge of us. And so y'all are just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah. You can go all the way back to Ted Kennedy and Chappaquiddick, which was never investigated properly. So it's been going on for a long time. For the average politician in Washington, D.C., especially male politician, but not always. Not always. They've caught a few females in Congress doing this as well. I can't remember the name of the female congresswoman who would have her intern female brush her hair while she was naked. And those pictures eventually surfaced. But, it was a Democrat.
She actually got booted out, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. But then again, she never did any jail time. And of course, I guess it might not have been a minor, but the perversion is off the frickin' charts. And if you and all they do is they just dismiss it. And if you say anything about it, you're a conspiracy theorist. I remember Hillary Clinton saying that the whole Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton thing was just one giant right-wing conspiracy theory. And
Oh, sure.
look how that turned out. That's their favorite go-to line. Let's get back to the book. I didn't mean to take you this far off the book, but there's a picture in here of Joe Biden licking something over Kamala Harris's shoulder. Is there a story there that I'm unfamiliar with? What's that about?
Well, here's the story. I had to have him lick a couple things that weren't ice cream, you see.
Yeah.
And I had to have some recognizable White House personnel in there. And obviously, Jill Biden had to, she had to have guacamole, or as Jill pronounces it, guacamole. That was an easy one. But then what else? I got to have Kamala in there. I know. A kebab. So that's where it came from.
Okay.
It's somewhat lickable. Maybe an old befuddled septuagenarian could confuse a delicious kebab for ice cream.
Sure.
I thought that's pretty reasonable. That's believable.
Okay.
You can see Joe doing it. And that's where he went. That's where he went. That's where the kebab comes from.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was a very thinly veiled reference to Willie Brown or not, but
No, we didn't quite go there.
Okay.
I'm honestly surprised my illustrator didn't work something about Willie Brown in there. Again, the White House, everyone needs to understand this. The White House is peopled by perverts and sex pests. That is who is in the White House. They trade sex for favors. They are abusive and disgusting. It's hard to say if they've ever reached levels of criminality, but except Hunter, he for sure has. And they just keep getting away with it. So if you vote for Joe and Kamala, or if you voted for Joe and Kamala, you voted for a couple of true perverts. They're not good people.
I think that Kamala Harris added new meaning to the phrase, anything to succeed, because when you're 30 years old and you're willing to have an affair with a 60-year-old Willie Brown who's married in California just to get ahead politically, you will literally do whatever it takes to get
Sure. And here's the problem, Mark. It worked. She did it.
Yeah.
She got what she wanted. It worked. The American people, I'm not going to get on a rabbit trail about democracy or voting for senators or what the founders envisioned as far as that went. The founders hated democracy. I hope all your listeners know that. They hated democracy probably worse than they hated monarchy. And they always said, especially old John Adams, that there's not a democracy that's ever existed that didn't commit suicide. And guess what we're doing?
Mm-hmm. Do you agree that they liked the idea of a republic?
I think they thought the republic was their best shot.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
Let's keep looking here. Again.
Yeah, let's keep looking and licking. So Joe gets through that.
You do what you want. I'll do what I want. But okay.
Those are the rules we set.
All right. Yeah, no problem at all. I'm taking a look at a picture now of Joe Biden in Hunter Biden's room. There's a large bowl of some white substance with a crack pipe beside it, and a scale. And there's a picture of what looks like a young girl in a bathing suit. We're obviously in Hunter's room, and he ends up getting a snortful or a mouthful of what he thinks is ice cream. So what happens after that?
Oh, wow. Can I just read those two stanzas?
Sure.
Joe is very frustrated. Everyone needs to understand. His search for ice cream, and he loves ice cream. He doesn't remember much, but he loves ice cream. Mm-hmm. And he's single-mindedly focused on it. Struck out with Kamala's kebabs. Jill's guacamole tasted terrible. It wasn't even frozen. So he's desperate, and he sees in Hunter's room what he thinks is a big pile of sugar. So we pick up and it says, old Joe couldn't help it. His sweet tooth was aching, and here was an answer right there for the taking. It wasn't quite ice cream, but that was all right. So he buried his face and he took a big bite. Well, Mark, it wasn't ice cream. But let me just toot my own horn here. We We wrote and illustrated that page. It's crack cocaine. Okay, everybody, it's crack cocaine. Picture Joe Biden's face in a giant pile of crack cocaine. We wrote that before that was in the news. We meant for that to be an over-the-top joke. And then probably 3 weeks later, after my illustrator had finished illustrating that page, we just cracked up. We just died laughing. Then all of a sudden hits the news. Guess what they found in the White House?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that in what should be the most secure building in the world, someone was able to get crack cocaine in there or get cocaine in there. It would have to be somebody in a very powerful position who would not be searched upon entering the White House.
Sure.
Who could that be? I don't know.
And just the fact that, we just couldn't find out. There's not enough evidence. There's no way we can figure out who this was. It's kind of like a Ghislaine Maxwell situation. It's just, come on, guys. Just, no one believes you. Just say, we're not going to prosecute whoever this was because they're too powerful. Ha ha. That's the rule. Just tell us straight up. We don't treat these people the same as we would treat you. And that's what you're seeing. So we're not going to tell you who it is, but obviously we know, and we just don't care. What are you going to do about it? I'd rather they just say that. But this whole, there's no way to tell whose could it be? It insults everyone's intelligence.
Well, a lot of things do. The Epstein case, the suicide insults everyone's intelligence. And we just see this all the time where they refuse to prosecute. You or I would be thrown in jail and they would throw away the key if we had done 10% of what these perverts and these drug addicts have done. But we're not Joe Biden. We're not Hunter Biden. We're not Bill Clinton. We're not Hillary Clinton. We're not Barack Obama. So we have to follow the law, but everyone else doesn't. And again, you would just have to be a moron to think they couldn't find out whose cocaine that was. They know whose cocaine it was, but they're not going to say. So end of story. Move along. Nothing to see here, folks. And we just that happens all the time, and it's embarrassing, and it really relegates us to behaving like a third world country. And it might be an insult to third world countries to say that, because America has really reached a point where the elites are in control, they're unaccountable, they're above the law, and no matter how much people like you and I might scream about it, nothing seems to be getting done. It's probably a great example of why they don't want Donald Trump back in office. Yeah,
whether it's Donald Trump or somebody else, I want someone to go in there with whoever it is. Literally, I will become a single issue voter if that issue is. I will declassify everything. I will put all the videos of everything on the internet. You can look through them yourself, go crazy. The 4chan or Reddit or Twitter or whoever. And everything comes to light, and then we'll hold everyone accountable. Oh, I'd love that. I don't have any hope that'll happen. So I do the only thing that I can, and that's to help Chet Festive write a delightful rhyming book about it.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry. We were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
You're listening to Mark Goulart. He explained the way things really are.
Do you ever see the American people? In fact, I'll ask you something that Sarah Palin said a couple of months ago. Do you think the American people are ever going to be so fed up that the idea of a civil war is possible? Personally, I can't imagine how the logistics of that would work. I think Americans are too soft. It wouldn't be state against state. But Sarah Palin made the comment that because of this unlawful persecution, not prosecution, but persecution of Donald Trump, that she thinks America could be headed toward a civil war. What do you think about that, Mr. Huffman?
I don't think we would ever fight a civil war. I think that what would happen instead, and this isn't off the top of my head, this is something I've thought about. I'm Googling something real quick because it's something that I wrote, and then it went viral because it was supposed to be sort of a gag. But I think I found it. I think we're too intermingled, and the problem is it's not north and south. It's not two distinct geographical locations. It is a sea of red with very, very localized centers of blue. So I don't know what that kind of civil war looks like. Mm-hmm. And no one should want that, by the way. It's horrific and destructive, and so many people that would die, and it would be in big, big, big numbers because of just the sheer ability that we have to kill each other.
Yes.
But can I read you a little poem, Mark?
Please.
Okay, this is something, and it would be hilarious if some of y'all had seen it. It kind of made the rounds everywhere, but I had a little goof going in my old pre-Olive Garden Twitter account where I would ChatGPT was just on the rise, so I would write my own things and then pretend like they were the answers that ChatGPT gave. They would be bonkers, wild, insane, hilarious, extremely clever things, if I'm being honest. But what I thought was funniest is the number of people was, wow, ChatGPT's getting good, AI's getting good. I thought people would recognize it as kind of just a meme format, but most people didn't. And one of the ones that went the furthest was, I pretended to ask ChatGPT, write a poem in the style of Dr. Seuss about what would happen if the government of the United States sent its military to fight civilians. Because that's what you hear is, a civil war, the United States will, the military would kill everybody. They got tanks and guns and jets and.
Yeah, I think Joe Biden said that.
Sure, and the problem is the United States military did apply its full force to Vietnam, to a bunch of rice farmers with AK-47s, and it was a 20-year stalemate, and then the U.S. left. And then they did the same thing with Afghanistan goat herders with AK-47s, and it was a 20-year stalemate, and they left. So this idea that people with small arms can't oppose the full force of the United States military, and this, again, I have family and friends who are veterans and active. This is not disparaging the United States military, who are some of the best, most patriotic warfighters in the world, but there's a lot of brass who should not be there. They make bad decisions and they want the wrong things, and they are harming the ability of every branch of the military to do their jobs, which is to protect American interests. That's a whole nother conversation. But I thought, let's address this idea that, the American population could never win a civil war. Again, not something that I think will ever be followed, but let me just read it to them. Shooty, shooty, pew, pew, pew. Let's all learn what guns can do. Liberals in the USA love to nod their heads and say, you bought your guns from a store. You can't fight a civil war. Fight the army, you will lose. They have jets and tanks to use. That's not where the story ends. They have homes and kids and friends. Tyrants threaten you with bombs. Just remember, they have moms. You can't live inside your jet. Can we find you? Yes, you bet. You'd send soldiers and Marines up against AR-15s? They're outnumbered 10-1. That is why I need a gun. Don't forget, because it's true, government is scared of you. The end.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. But obviously the point is, a civil war would not be people forming up battalions. It would be horrifically clandestine warfare. And woe to the first pilot who drops a bomb on a civilian target in the United States, because he's not going to find his family alive. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
That's the sort of thing that would happen in a modern American Civil War. The drone pilots, some borderline autistics on 4chan would find the home addresses of every single member of all the drone pilots' families and head there. Do you know what I mean? It would be horrific. It would be out of a horror movie.
Well, the question is,
and nobody would win.
Where do you drop the bombs? I mean, you take my neighborhood.
Exactly.
You know, I put out my Republican sign. My neighbor puts out his Democrat sign. Well, actually, at this point, we're not doing it because I think people are too scared to put out signs. But where are they going to drop the bomb? They can't hit my house without hitting his.
Exactly.
So where do they drop the bomb? I don't know. And I'll tell you something else. I think it's a farce for anyone to believe that everyone in the military is going to be okay with going after American citizens. I remember 20 years ago, I was getting my hair cut, and the lady that was cutting my hair was telling me about her nephew who was at Fort Hood in Killeen, and they were discussing if the spam hit the fan, what would they do? Would they follow orders from the U.S. government, or would they take their weapons and side with the people? And she said almost all of them were saying they would take their weapons and side with the people. So I don't know.
Of course they would.
Yeah, so I don't think any of that's going to happen. I don't want any of that to happen. I think it's one of those situations where people just haven't thought it through. I mean, there are people in this country that roughing it is when the heater goes out in their swimming pool. You know, I mean,
sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree with you. We're much too soft. We're too coddled.
I mean, we've got a generation of men that can't change a tire, for crying out loud, and they're going to pick up a gun and, they're going to be looking for their moms to pick them up at the end of the day and take them somewhere to eat. It's just there's no way this is going to happen. But yet, if you spend any time at all on X or Facebook, there are people that bring up this scenario all the time. Are we headed toward a civil war? There have been books written. How are we going to stop the coming civil war? And my thought is that in a way, tell me what you think, Mark, we're already in a civil war. It's just a silent civil war. It's a war being fought out in social media. It's a war being fought out with the media, with the politicians. I mean, we're very, very, very divided, but I don't see either side being stupid enough to actually take a shot. Because let's say this, if something even close to a civil war ever broke out, it would be over very quickly, because once people found out what war was about, they wouldn't want any part of it.
No, they do whatever they could.
Yeah.
Whatever they could to stop it.
Yeah.
And there's no driving force. As mad as people, all the Sturm und Drang about the pronouns. You really that upset? You really that upset? The things we get upset about are just, if you take a step back, you just got to chuckle and be like, this is the stupidest time ever to be alive. This is nonsense. There are serious issues, but most of the issues that get all the attention I mean, especially on social media, are just every single person before the year 2000 who saw what we're getting upset and fighting and ruining relations over, and just playing our flag on. And but I really do mean the leftists. It's literally crazy. They literally would have been institutionalized. No one would understand it.
Oh, if you go back,
I mean, try explaining someone in 2000 that, oh yeah, no, it's going to be very, very controversial whether or not to use somebody's preferred pronouns. And you say those words to a person, and I don't care if you're the most far left communist of the year 2000, you're just going to get a dumb look like, what? I don't understand. I understood those words, but altogether I didn't understand them, because that's insane.
Well, you go to other countries, and people can do 6 months in jail for applying the wrong pronoun. You go to Canada, they want to start taking kids away from parents who won't acknowledge their chosen gender. So all we have to do is look into some other countries, socialized countries, and see what's going on there. And we notice that they're even nuttier than we are. And I got to go ahead. Yeah.
I will say on that particular subject, Canada's the worst. But so Chet Festive's first book, which I'm somewhat familiar with, was actually crowdfunded, so you can't buy it at the moment. But it's called "Ma'am, I Am," and it's about the whole transgender phenomenon. And do you mind if I read just one little excerpt?
Please do.
Okay, so this is where it kind of all started, and this is just a normal fella talking to another fella that says, "You have to call me ma'am. I am. I'm a lady now." Let's start with that. "I made the city change a law to let me use the women's spa, but now I do not want to go. It is your fault. I'll have you know. You have been mean. You have been rude. You've put me in a sour mood. I am so mad. I feel such stress. I think I may have PMS." And that's countered by, "You have no uterus, so no, you cannot bleed from down below. I do not like your padded bra. You should not use the women's spa. You tell me you had surgery. Your pronouns still are him and he. Your chromosomes are X and Y. That means you'll always be a guy. You gave yourself a girly name. I do not care. You're not a dame. A surgeon chopped your eggs and ham. I still won't call you ma'am, I am." And so on and so forth. And that's when I realized the genius of Chet Festive. But from what I understand, that whole book had its kind of start when that little excerpt there went viral, because a Brit, actually an Irish comedy writer named Graham Linehan, you may know all this stuff, but Graham is very left, like J.K. Rowling is very left. I mean, they're liberal, they're feminist, and they're the ones who are leading the charge against all of that pronoun nonsense in Scotland and the UK. Canada doesn't have any counterparts, which is why they're kind of struggling so badly. But you actually do see the tide turning over there in the UK. But again, not because of Christians or Catholics or conservatives, because of liberal feminists who, I mean, the Martina Navratilovas of the world. I mean, it's very much LGB without the T even. And it's because women, not conservative women, very, very left women, they don't think it's fair that a rapist in Scotland can just declare that he is now a woman and then get housed in a women's prison, which is what is and has happened.
All I can say is that God needs to come down quickly, because we have reached a point where the devil is winning in a huge way. Whenever people are so bizarre that they're saying that a child should be able to change genders and not tell their parents about it. I mean, it's absolutely sickening, and we see this kind of crap all the time. And you know, there used to be a name for this. It was called gender dysphoria, and it was considered it was considered a psychological illness But
because it is.
I agree. But now it's becoming mainstream. I had a gentleman on my show a few weeks ago, African American, Democrat, gay, and he was saying that there couldn't be any reason for putting a drag queen in a kindergarten classroom except for the reason of recruiting and grooming. And he was saying that the LGB community is upset because the trans part, the T in LGBT, is giving the rest of the community a bad name. He said gay people do not approve of drag queens going into kindergarten classrooms. Gay people do not approve of teachers being able to help a child transgender without the parents even knowing about it. He said none of them support that. So right now,
yes, that's very true.
You've got hardcore liberals like J.K. Rowling. I'm unfamiliar with the gentleman you mentioned, but then you mentioned Martina Navratilova, and they're coming out and saying this. And I think the reason for it is that they realize that this is genuinely an insult to real women. If you look at the way drag queens dress, they're mocking women. They're not dressing as a woman. They're mocking women. And I think they're seeing that this is bad. You know, we've got Riley Gaines, who's on tour around the country. I was very upset. She came to Texas A&M, and I didn't find out about it until about 3 days later. And but, you know, we've got Riley out there saying, hey, I'm the best female swimmer in America, not this guy who gave himself a female name. And I think people are genuinely starting to see that liberals destroy everything they touch. They destroyed the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, professional sports, you know, and, you know, here they are ruining childhood for kids. It's just, I mean, I can't think of any change they've been in favor of that's actually worked out. I know they take credit for the civil rights movement, but they got that done with a lot of help from Republicans and conservatives. I mean, where do you, let me ask you this. Where do you see this going, Mark? Where's it going to end? I mean, right now, you see what's going on in the schools. President Ice Cream said that if you don't agree to teaching all this transgender crap, he's going to cut off federal support to lunch money. So basically, he's a big bully taking away lunch money if schools won't help turn little boys into little girls. If it's this crazy now and we don't do anything about it, where do you see it being in 20 years?
Oh, well, so there are several factors. Obviously, it's hard to predict entirely because it's a little bit of a clown world. But between the $33 trillion in debt, which is unsustainable, the coming collapse of the American medical system, which is another conversation, but that is going to happen unless a drastic changes are made at the federal level, but at every level. Doctors are leaving as fast as they can. There's already a shortage of multiple specialties, especially anesthesia. And if there's an anesthesia shortage, guess what you don't get? You don't get surgery. And if you don't get surgery, then you're not going to make any money for hospitals. So all that's coming down the pipe because there is no doctor who's telling their kid, you should be a doctor. There's just nothing attractive about it anymore. And with an aging population that continues to be generally morbidly obese, alcoholic smoker, that's going to be a disaster that not nearly enough people are talking about. But so there's that. There's this, as divided as the electorate is, every single election is going to have basically 50% of the country furious. That's just how it's going to be. It's the pendulum's going to swing. It doesn't matter who. Where I see it happening, I don't think that in 20 years we will be, I'm not saying what I want, I'm saying what I think. I think that if things progress the way it's going to be, we're not going to have a civil war. We're just going to have a dissolution. And it's not going to be in 2 parts. It's probably going to be in 5 or 6 parts. And the United States will become 5 or 6 different countries, and then people will kind of, you'll have your blue urbanites moving to the Californias and Seattles of the world, or your New Englands. You're going to have red New Englanders and West Coast people moving to Florida and Texas. And I think it'll just have to be kind of a reorganize. And honestly, I think that's almost best case scenario. There's nothing set in stone about the 50 United States that have existed since the 1960s. You know what I mean? There's nothing immortal about it. There's nothing written anywhere that says, well, no, that this was the goal all along. Now we're done. And part of me thinks that it might really be a best case scenario if we, and this is also not like a sacred marriage. It's not a national divorce. We're not nationally married. It would just be people realizing, by people, I mean the American people as a whole, realizing that at this point, we don't want the same things. Because Mark, we don't want the same things.
No, we don't.
I mean, I've said it like this before. When America started, and even a long, when you talked about the left and the right, you were really talking about the size of government, right? And there was compromise to be had there, right? In the same way that a husband and a wife both want to go on vacation, but he wants to go to the mountains and she likes the beach. But you both want to go on vacation. You have a shared history, you have shared values, you have loyalty to each other, you like each other, you just disagree on kind of the nuts and bolts, but you both want to go somewhere. And now we just got to figure out where the best place is. I don't know when that stopped, but what it is now is more like the husband wants to go on vacation to the mountains and the wife wants to go to a hotel with her personal trainer to have an affair and never see the husband again. What's the compromise? What is the compromise between the right and the left? What's the compromise between, I think children should be children, and I think children should designate themselves by an explicitly sexual designation, like, are you a gay child? Are you a trans child? It's a prepubescent child. Why are you even introducing this language, this lexicon into the, grooming, which is another conversation. But what's the compromise there? What's the compromise with, I think a man can declare that he is a woman and have access to every women's only space that there is because he said so. And no, that's insane. Chromosomes dictate your biological reality and there's nothing you can do. What's that compromise? And the answer is there isn't one. So what to do? I don't know. All I can do is, take care of my family and live in Texas and, give good patient care and write silly books because humor is a defense mechanism. So that's kind of where I am. But I hope that answers your question. In 20 years, unless something drastic and historic and is a major section of a history book happens, I don't see us continuing. It's not healthy. But I don't think it ends in a civil war of any kind, because I don't think we don't have the stomach for it. We're too comfortable.
Extremely comfortable. And as I said, we've got a generation of males. In fact, I think somebody did a study that found at this point, the average college male has a grip strength about the equivalent of a 35-year-old woman. So they're I guess apparently playing on Nintendo doesn't build your grip strength, but that's where we are as a nation. Let me ask you one last question, Mark, and that is, go through your book and think of anything we didn't say that you were hoping we were going to say, and tell my audience all about it. I want to give you an open page, blank carte blanche to say whatever you want to about the book.
Okay, I can do that. For Chet, I can do anything. Let me read you the back of it. So, if you want an overview, Mark's audience, of what this book kind of is about, let's read the back. President Joe Biden loves ice cream, and in his search around the White House for the delicious frozen treat, he discovers a wonderful secret beyond his wildest confectionery dreams. Joe Biden loved ice cream, and no doubt about it, he couldn't imagine a White House without it. And thanks to some magical sugar he found, he discovered there's oodles of ice cream around. Poor President Joe. Although he's confused about a lot of things, his love for ice cream isn't one of them, except he can't seem to find ice cream anywhere. No confections from Kamala, no gelato from Jill. Joe worries that his sweet tooth will go on aching. That is, until he discovers a very special kind of sugar, which we discussed already. You're invited on a riotous rhyming romp through the White House as Joe, with the help of a few famous friends from around the globe, discovers a secret that lets him experience the world as he's always dreamed. So, if you want a cheeky book that definitely pokes fun at not only the current occupant of the White House and his ice cream habit, but in a masterfully done verse, and lots of cameos from your favorite global figures from, let's see who we got. We have Greta Thunberg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have Harry and Meghan. There's Stacey Abrams, I think, and there's Emmanuel Macron. And, of course, most importantly, the Dalai Lama. And the illustrations are top-notch. The rhyme and meter are impeccable, and it's a timely sort of book. If you know anybody, or you yourself, like political satire, or you need some birthday presents, unfortunately, here's the sad story, Mark. This was going to be out by Christmas, and the first shipment just disappeared.
What do you mean it disappeared?
I don't know what I mean by it disappeared, beyond that it disappeared. We got a text from our publisher at Bombardier Books, and he said, "Hey guys, we got to move the Amazon date. Our first shipment disappeared." And we said, "What do you mean disappeared?" "Oh, the warehouse says the warehouse just says that they can't find it."
Wow.
So I'm hoping that it's something super conspiratorial, because that'll be pretty fun. But one way or another, if you would, audience, go to Amazon, look up Everything is Ice Cream by Chet Festive, and check it out. You can pre-order now. The best thing to do for books. Nothing sells books. Well, I could probably stop right there. Nothing sells books. Have you ever published a book, Mark?
I have not.
And you've talked with authors and authors and authors, and a lot of your guests have written books.
Yes.
It is the goofiest, most nonsensical clown show industry, and nobody knows what works. Nobody knows what works. Besides telling people, which is why I appreciate so much you having me on.
Sure.
And why I'm sure your other guests do too. But telling people is the best way. And then once people read the book and they like it, word of mouth is really the only guaranteed way to sell books. So I hope people will pre-order it. It's going to be a lot of fun to read to your family and friends as the campaign season heats up. It's pretty funny, and you've seen it. It's pretty well done.
Oh yeah,
I gotta say.
Yeah, the illustrations are off the charts. The writing is amazing, and you combine the two, and you've got a classic. You've got a classic. So I was about to tell people to get one as a stocking stuffer, but based on what you're telling me, I don't. Are they going to be available by Christmas?
I don't think they're going to be available for Christmas, which drives me crazy. But what else can you do? But they're available for next Christmas.
Okay.
Or you could just give a late Christmas present. You can give books anytime.
That's a good point. That is a good point. That is. This isn't an accident, Mark. This is not an accident. You've got a book that's poking fun of the President of the United States and his dare I say, effed up family. I mean, his daughter's a
Yeah,
sex
you can
addict.
say that.
Yeah, his daughter's a sex addict. She's an alcoholic. You got a son that does coke and likes little girls. The son, even though liberals say it's a lie, refers to his dad as Pedo Peter. This family could not be more messed up, man. Jill gets in front of Hispanic people in San Antonio. You and I are both Texans, and tells them that they remind her of the diverse breakfast tacos. I mean, that is a
sure.
Yeah, that is a classic.
Cisse Podway, Mark. Cisse Podway.
I'm not familiar with that. What do you?
Oh, you have to look up. If you've never seen the clip, I'll find it and send it to you. But
Okay,
Joe Biden
please.
she means to say "si se puede,"
Oh, puede. Okay, well
right?
now I understand.
And
I
she
took Spanish.
gets up there and she yells "si se Podway."
Oh,
The
God.
future is ours, and and that's
Oh.
where the guacamole comes from.
Oh my God. Well,
It's magnificent.
Well,
It's
you
just
see
delightful.
you see this all the time, Mark. You see it, Joe Biden getting in front of black people. They're going to put y'all back in chains, and then
Sure.
and then that same one where he was talking about the kids bouncing up and down on his lap. In that same speech, he was talking to a black audience, and he goes, "So I grew up being familiar with roaches," and I thought, so you're talking to black people, and you feel the need to tell them that you grew up being familiar with roaches. Would you have said that to a white audience?
No, it's because he's super racist.
Of course it is.
And so they pander, but they're actually super. And I say that as someone who grew up in the 80s and 90s. And what I guess the kids don't understand is that when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, there truly was no racism. Nobody cared. The generation before us had wiped it out. It was the civil rights, but then for the next 20 years, you had Jackie Robinson and Dr. J, and then by the time I came around, literally nobody cared.
Right.
Nobody cared in their personal life. No one cared in the public life. Everyone was just super chill about it because America, for the first time in the history of the world, and believe me, America and Great Britain and Wilberforce, as much garbage as we get for chattel slavery, which is, a truly terrible institution, there were only two countries responsible for the fact that it basically doesn't exist today. And that's England and the US. And the US fought a whole war about it. Anyway, that's a whole rant that I got. But the point is, that's all. I'm just, America's is racist and slavery. Every country had slaves.
Right.
Every country had slaves to a degree far worse than the US. And there were only two countries that actually bothered to get rid of it. And now it's gone.
We have gone past the time, which is amazing given the length of the book, but we did go off in some different directions, which I was happy to do. I hope that you eventually sell a lot of these once the missing samples or the missing copies become available. Here's a hint. You might try looking at the Penn Center. Or the basement of the White House. But I hope you sell a lot of them. We're going to try to help you do that. And we'll get this out by tomorrow morning. And we'll also send out some teaser clips, some little trailers to get people interested in it. So,
awesome.
Mark, I want to thank you for being here. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Want to have you come back someday as a doctor, if you're able to do it, and tell us.
I'd love to. Anytime. Seriously, anytime.
Okay. Well, I'd like to hear more about your international op-eds regarding how bad Fauci and the CDC reacted to COVID.
And
that's a whole other
I'll tell you
interview.
what, I might email you this. We have another Chet Festa book that's done.
Oh, okay.
And it's called How the Fauci Stole Christmas and Thanksgiving and Birthday Parties and Graduations.
Okay.
And, we may have to change it because my publisher's afraid of getting sued by the Seuss Enterprises.
Okay.
But the whole thing is about Fauci, with some guest appearances from Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates. It's magnificent, and we actually wrote it before the ice cream one.
All
but
right.
I may send you the PDF. But yeah, so that's if we can get this one sold in large enough quantities, we got a follow up ready to go.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, send it on to me. I'd like to get an advance copy. Once again, the name of the book is Everything is Ice Cream. A tale of an old man and his tongue by Chet Festive. Mark Huffman, thank you for being here today, and we look forward to having you back again real soon.
Thanks a ton. Pleasure.
You've been listening to the Tea Party Power Hour with Mark Gillar.